My name is John Spevacek. I am the Vice President of ESLA, and I'll be the MC tonight. As I say, we want to thank the Elk Rapids Marina and Dam Shop for inviting us here and using this great facility. They're a really good business partner of us. And we've got a really good program here about boating safety. I would like to have a moment of silence for John Conrad, who tragically we lost. I only got to know John for the last year since he's a member of ESLA. He's on the board, but a really good guy and good person here in the Elk Rapids community. So let's give a moment of silence for John. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Our first speaker is going to be from the marina here. It's Riley Chadwell is going to come up and do whatever you're going to do.
Thank you so much, John. I just wanted to welcome everyone and echo all the great things that this association is doing, and kicking off to the new year and spring. We're all getting excited to get out there on the boats. As you can see, we're around 50 or so in, so Tim and Service have been hard at work. And then just also, just echo John's legacy that he left behind here at the marina. He was a big part of why I'm here and a friend of many of us in the room and the area. So we got a great speaker series tonight with some of our friends from the Coast Guard, local sheriff department, local marine divisions. Many of them I've had a chance to meet, and some I'm meeting for the first time. So a couple of just real quick plugs for the marina. We are now a Suzuki outboard dealer. So if anyone's in a repowering opportunity, they are doing a 20% discount if you turn in your old 2-stroke engine to help clean up the waterways, which is really, really cool. And a portion of those proceeds are actually going back to nonprofit organizations. Other thing, we just signed up as an electric jet ski dealership with Taiga Motors. So if anyone's in the market for a new jet ski, we now offer electric jet skis. Also a great plug for cleaning up the waterways, because obviously jet skis are gas guzzlers. And then last but not least, we did sign up with a center console brand called Delta, just to diversify our 7 different brands now. So we're growing in what we sell and what we service. So I'll kick things back here to John, and once again, welcome everyone. Have a great night.
Our next speaker is Antrim County Sheriff Kevin Hoch.
Slow no wake, right? Going over the slow no wake. How we doing, everybody? What a fantastic venue, isn't it? I'm Kevin Hoch. I am your sheriff for Antrim County. This is one of my A teams here. We got Deputy Clark and we got Deputy Wick. These guys do a phenomenal job for me. We usually try to have 10 seasonal Marine police officers through the season, and these guys basically run the show for the other officers that come on part-time. So I want to talk a little bit about how many boats we have. We have 5 vessels that we put out through the summer. We have one that is actually in the upper harbor in Elk Rapids, and it's quicker response for the deputies to get in there and if they have an emergency call or whatnot. So we also have Ed Sell, who is not here tonight, which is kind of hoping for me as well. So we call them the 3 Musketeers. So maybe not public, right? So, but these guys do a phenomenal job. So a lot of questions that we do have is basically, what's the speed limit on a lake? Anybody know what the speed limit is? 55. Yes, it is. Obviously, unless you're in a slow-mo wake, right? So I've heard Deputy Clark talk several times in his courses of motor safety, and he'll probably talk about this as well. But he's even talked about 40 miles an hour on a vessel. It's going pretty good, especially out in the water. Wind's blowing on your face, tears are coming out of your eyes. You got to hold on to your hat. I mean, that's moving along pretty good. So, and we have these jet skiers, right? So everything is about safety, right? So we teach about safety. We talk about the rules and regulations of the waterway. And like I said, Deputy Clark goes to all the motor safety classes, and he does a phenomenal job. But he kind of has it in. He's a professor at the college, so right? It's kind of shy. We gotta get him woken up here, right? So, anybody have any questions so far? I'm gonna give it over to my Marine deputies here. I'm gonna give it to Deputy Clark first, and then if he wants to turn it over to Deputy Wick, just to give you guys a little bit of what they do. I could stand up here and talk all day.
Radar, or how do you know how fast they're going? I got speedometers.
We pace them.
No, but when we're going so fast, we can tell. Right.
And it's funny you should ask that because I had a PWC go by me last year, and he was moving. And I noticed that his registration was expired. This was by Deepwater Point on Torch. I didn't catch him till the north end, 19 miles later. But where are you going to go on the lake? You know, eventually he's going to slow down. And when I stopped him, I said, Deputy Clark, Antrim County Sheriff Department, I noticed you have expired registration. He's like, oh, I guess I do. And we were having a little discussion about that. And I said, that thing really moves. And he says, yeah. And I said, how fast do you think you were going? He said, oh, I was going 65 at least. Okay, we have another discussion. Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah. So what we do out there, I always tell them, by the way, has anybody ever thought about a career in law enforcement? We're always looking for people. It's a great summer job. We will train you. We will get you all squared away. So if you're interested. Pardon? Yes, please. We need people. The more people we have, the more we can patrol and the safer we can keep our lakes. So I tell the new people we have 3 jobs. One is search and rescue. No matter what we're doing, if we get a call, we go. That can be in the middle of the night. That can be while we're working. It doesn't matter. We jump out of a boat and head out there. Second is education, because as you people know, a lot of people don't know what they're doing out there. So thanks to the sheriff, we spend an enormous amount of time teaching boater safety. We've done one in Mansalona. We've done one in Elk Rapids. We've done one in Bel Air. We're going to Central Lake and then Ellsworth. And we do that every year. So we educate a lot of students. That's young people and adults in the class. And that's all free of charge. He allows us to do that. And then the lake associations reimburse us for lunch for the students. We get snacks and pizzas and stuff for the kids and adults. So search and rescue, educate. So we stop a lot of times and educate people. So this is one of the things we see a lot of in our lakes. And I'm sure they're going to talk about appropriate life jackets, but this is something that's not appropriate on a vessel. This is a Type 5 swimming. It says Coast Guard approved on it, but it's not for anybody under 6. They have to have a Type 1 or 2.
I'm sorry, I was just, is that for people or dogs? I didn't know.
Yep. So under 6, Type 1 or 2. And to give you a little bit about life jackets, Type 1 is the most flotation. Type 2 is the next most. Type 3 that we're used to thinking about with the ski vests has the next most. And then this is Type 5. So this would be good at the beach, but not on a boat. And we see this all the time. And under 6, we were really concerned about those kids because if they go in the water, they're going to have a tough time and they need the right jacket on. We call these puffy arms. They're not legal on boats. So we spend a lot of time educating people. And then the third thing is law enforcement, where we sometimes write citations and sometimes arrest people for drinking and driving over the limit. So can you drink and drive a boat in Michigan? Yes, you can. It's different than a car. In Michigan, you can drink and drive a boat. And the people that know that, when they go drive by us and they see us, they say, "Hello, officer." The people that don't know it, they see us and they go like this. So it is legal, but you have to stay under that point of weight, just like in a car. So occasionally we come to an accident or we stop a boat and somebody's had too much to drink, and then they get arrested just like you were driving a car. So you want to keep people safe. You're allowed to drink, but you just have to stay under that limit.
Do you have noise, do we have noise limits?
State law has 90 decibels, and we write that ticket a lot. People that are unmuffled,
We do have a decimal.
yeah. So we do enforce that. Yeah. 90 decibels, which is loud.
Mainly for music or exhaust?
Pardon?
Mainly for music or exhaust, or both?
Oh, for boats. For music, for noise like that, that's a township ordinance, and I don't believe.
We don't, there's no county noise ordinance in Antrim County.
Right.
The
So-
only ordinance that we have that the noise is fireworks.
We do get called to talk to people a lot that have music playing out in front of somebody's house or something. 99 out of 100 times, we go talk to them. It's resolved, they turn it down, or they'll go somewhere else. Occasionally, they don't. We can't. We just ask them to be respectful of the landowners.
Any other questions?
What's your position on boaters parking in front of our houses, right off our docks? It's becoming more and more, they find these little places and they just want to park right off the end of your dock and party all day.
Are they partying on your dock?
No, on their boat, but they're not very far off.
Are they actually moored on your dock?
No.
They'll drop anchor just off the dock.
Just not very far out in the sand.
We deal with that every summer.
And they got-
Like most of the time, if you call us, if you've talked to them politely and we talk to them, we can get them to move out further or down the lake a little bit further. But they have a right. The surface water is owned by the state of Michigan. As long as they're not touching your property, they have a right to be there. And then it gets to where it's all about respect. Trying to be respectful of neighbors and people that live there.
Hopefully you can get them to move.
Yeah.
This is how you talk to them, with respect.
Usually when we talk to them and explain the situation, they're a little more receptive than.
That me yelling at the end of my dock.
Exactly. Yeah, and we do that every summer, so it's not an issue.
Can you explain to everyone what your interpretation of the no wake rule is?
So the no wake rule, it has nothing to do with speed. I know a lot of people put out these speed signs that say 5 miles an hour, no wake 5. It has nothing to do with speed. It has to do with your boat and how much of a wave it makes.
Well, your ability to control your boats, to
Yeah.
navigate your boat at the safe speed, not all of your boats always going to have a wake, is my understanding. I don't
Correct.
know what
So- So you're being propelled forward, you can still navigate, you're not supposed to go any faster than that. We have people all the time tell us we were going 5, doesn't matter, your boat's making a wake. And we spend a lot of time on wake enforcement, on elk and torch mainly. Yeah. So we spend a lot of time enforcing that, and I can tell you what'll happen this summer. I'll drive by somebody, I'll look at the captain, and we have one officer, Deputy Sell, he likes to yell at people, slow down, and that's fine. I generally look at people and go like this, slow down a little bit. They're going a little bit too fast. They're not going way too fast, a little bit too fast. And they turn around and look at their weight. And I say, slow down. And they slow down.
Okay, so it's like not to be.
Well, I think what you're trying to say is like, obviously,
You know it when you
every
see it.
boat
Yes.
is a little different speed, you can go straight. I mean, we have a smaller boat, which you can go slower, you can go straight. We have a bigger boat where you're going real slow, you're going constantly back and forth on the wheel, and you're doing this.
You're
go a little quicker to keep going straight. And sometimes it seems like we folks think we're going too fast, or let's maybe go to keep it actually without doing this the whole time. And obviously, if there's not a lot of traffic, not a big deal. But if there's a lot of boats out, you don't want to be kind of swerving back and forth, constantly sawing back and forth on the wheel.
A good example are pontoons and tritoons.
This is
When everybody wants to sit in the front, they're making a wake. They're making a wake actually with the deflectors on the front of the pontoons. It's still a wake that's rolling out and hitting the shoreline. Bow riders, if they're all sitting in the front, they'll be plowing the water. So that's why the speed doesn't matter, because at 5 miles an hour, some boats aren't making a wake. PWCs we run into a lot. I don't own one, but some of them actually have a mode that says slow no wake. It's not slow enough. If there's 2 big people on that and they're down in the water, it's thrown away. They like to argue with us, and I said, well, you have a choice. You can go between neutral and forward. You cannot be making this wake that's rolling.
So are you asking that in your vessel to maintain navigation, you think you're making a wake?
Well, actually, no, like I said, what we probably should say is that, let's say, 80% of the time, they're ready to say to us, but there's been probably 2 or 3 times up to 10 where we're going on Hoch River, where we're told to slow down, where, I mean, once that happens.
Is it a deep V boat?
Yes. Yeah. It's 24 foot, fiberglass, heavy boat, right? If you're trying to really.
Hard to go slow no wake.
So that's.
It is. Big issue too is how your motor's trimmed.
Yeah.
Oh,
If you have your motor trimmed up too much because you're afraid of the shallowness,
honestly,
it'll be bad.
we're all the way down.
If you look behind you and your wave's going like this, you're making a wave.
So my question was, if you guys, you know what you see, you can't describe it, but like, it's reasonableness, when you see it, you make the determination whether or not that's.
And what I might do is I might tell you to slow down, maybe slow down a little bit, but I'm not pulling you over and writing you a citation for violating the wake rule.
And we never have been written citations, so.
Right.
Unless you're cleaning that thing up.
Yeah.
Although, it might be fun on the river every once in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, we tell a lot of people to slow down just because it's, we look at people, they're making a little bit of weight. And the people that live on the rivers, it's damaging to their shoreline. So we tend to tell people to slow down quite often. I mean, last summer, I was down by the log cabin on Torch, and a guy was coming through there from the stumps going toward Torch. I was on Torch River, and he was full plane. Now, he got a citation. But most often, we're just telling people, keep it slow, be respectful.
We own a wake boat.
Yep.
Designed to make wake.
Designed to make weight.
And I've read, you can tell me, I'm trying to make sure I understand. We should be in like at least 32 knots, or more, stay in the center of the lake.
That's helpful. The issue is when we get 3 or 4 wakeboard boats on Clam Lake or something like that, where it's really narrow, that really can do some damage to the shoreline. If you're out quite a ways offshore in Elk or Torch, it's not going to do that much damage. No. We're seeing more and more of those.
Are you doing anything special to kind of address the bottlenecking at the mouth of the Torch River? The last few times I've been up there, there's been tons of boats, lots of rental boats with maybe not experienced boaters having trouble not getting other boats. And I know that the launch has been expanded up there. So I'm just curious how
We spend most of our time dealing with rentals because they don't know really what they're doing. And we do accident reports, and probably over half of our accident reports are in Torch River right there, and the other half are in Clam River at the dockside. Because that's the area where there's a lot of current and people that are inexperienced. And the dockside, when it's busy and all the boats are docked, then you've got two-way traffic on a weekend. Accidents happen because people are inexperienced. And the same thing with at the beginning where Torch empties into Torch River. The current is tough there. If you're not experienced, it's going to be an issue. We can't regulate we can tell people move along, get going, you know, but we can't regulate people going in and out of there. We can tell them they can't hang out there. They need to move away. They can't impede traffic. But it's an issue, those two spots, because of the current and the number of boats.
Related to that, respect about the folks mooring along the Fort River and up in the bayou there. That's the big issue with the environmental groups that are associated with, trying to stop that.
I can't hear you.
Well, they,
Your eyes.
boating up in the, hanging out up in the bayou.
You mean more in their boat?
More than boats alongside the river there on the islands.
Oh, yes. Well,
Sheriff Hoch, could you repeat his question? We can't hear the question.
we have 3 islands that are over by the south end of Torch Lake and Torch River. And to answer your question, me and Sheriff Whiteford have been working on this all winter. And we finally got a hold of the owners of these islands. And they have wrote letters to us explaining and expressing that we do not want anyone on our property. So it's all notarized, and our next step is to go to our prosecutor, sit down with them, with Kel Casket and my prosecutor, Bill Brott, and sit down and get a game plan. It's a 30-day misdemeanor for trespassing. So it's not an arrestable offense on site. So usually what we do is, hey, you got to skedaddle. You are not welcome here. The owners don't want you.
But hasn't that been the case for like ever? I mean, there's
Forever.
5 million no trespassing signs.
It's been posted for decades.
It's been posted, and people still do it.
And that's happening, and so what are, I mean, your the law,
Yep.
they've been trespassing for.
Yep.
Since, I've been coming up here with them since I was 15. So.
She's like 75 now.
Yeah, but, yeah.
Wow.
We're in our 50s now, so what is the, I mean, we've never seen a police officer tell people, y'all gotta go, you can't be here, and it's just getting worse and worse.
Oh,
What we've been told was, because people didn't want people on their island, walking on their island. So we tell people all the time, you can't be physically on the island. But the mooring part of it is.
Where?
So if they were to like beach it on the sand and walk around the water.
Walk
Right.
around on the island, right?
Absolutely.
We would say, no, no trespassing, you can't be on there. Okay.
So the new part of the mooring, the boat on their island, it's now starting to damage the natural growth on these islands. So our step is basically now is you're trespassing. We will do a criminal report and we'll send it off to the prosecutor.
Okay.
We cannot put them in handcuffs and take them away. 30-day misdemeanor.
Okay,
It's just the way it is.
okay. Maybe some kind of shame photographs, I mean, something. Some shame, something. It's,
So it is something, because when the officer gets there, you also have to understand that the Marine deputies we have they're deputized under me, no offense guys, they're not MCOL certified, which is a police officer. So they're acting under my authority, and once they see this, they will report it on their report and/or get a hold of one of my deputies, and they will complete the report and they will send it off to the prosecutor's office to see if the prosecutor's going to issue them a warrant, and then we'll go pick them up as an arrest.
seriously?
That's the process.
Oh yeah. So it's
Go ahead.
which one?
Yeah, can you comment briefly on, having to have a motor safety certificate if you're under 40 and driving a jet ski? I think a lot of people were aware of that, at least I wasn't. It's not kind of citation for use from out of state. So, I think that's a good thing to let people know about, so that they don't, what's the date for people?
88 or something like
If
that.
you're born after 1978,
78.
you need a motor safety to operate a PWC.
So if you're born after 1978, you need a motor safety certificate to operate a PWC. This year, that makes 47-year-olds needing a motor safety card. If you're born after 1996, you need a motor safety card to operate any other boat. So each year, those laws, if they don't change, eventually everybody will need a motor safety certificate.
And really, that's a great law when you like own jet skis. You don't want folks going there like if you have your
Oh,
certificate, like, you know, like we like to let you guys go, but
Yeah, and the other misconception is we cannot check for your motor safety card. Those are issued under the DNR authority. We can check your driving record through the Secretary of State, Arlene, our dispatcher. We cannot check your motor safety card. That's why the law states you gotta carry it with you.
So if I don't have it with me, so imagine that as a foreigner, after that.
you know, so she's an attorney, so I'm sure the little lawyer, little.
So if I don't have it with me, you're saying I can't. So if I just say, well, I have it, what is the effect of that?
Well, there's a citation for not having it with you.
Okay, so now.
There's a citation for not having one,
You probably just show up.
and we can't verify it through the DNR.
So
Off
I'm
your field.
only going to get a citation that I don't have it with me because you can't verify.
It's probably important for you to like prove that you have it.
I mean, that's what the law allows.
You can get that DNR app. There's a DNR app you can get on your smartphone.
Yeah.
You get on there, you put all your credentials in there, it'll show your motor safety certificate.
And for people who have taken it at least after 1970, the DNR does have a record of it. I don't know any earlier than that. I know for a fact after 1970. If you put that app on your phone like he explained and you look in the licensing part under your certificates, it'll show if you have motor safety, hunter safety, ORV. You can show it to us on an electronic device. The law also allows if that phone drops in the water, it's not my fault. I hate handing somebody $600 phone back and forth. I personally do.
I want to kind of go back real quick in reference to your question about the islands, because there's other ways of, what should I say this, being politically correct, getting them out of that situation at the time and taking them. There's always drunken, disorderly. I guarantee you're going to get it all day long. Tell them to get off the island, and they're gonna sit there and argue with you. Guarantee it, especially if they have the cowboy drinks in. So, and that's.
You mean people are actually drinking and voting?
Unbelievable. Right, yeah. So I just want to clarify that as well. A lot of times we get down to Torch Lake, we call it Torch Fest. We come in numbers, MSP, Sheriff's Office, DNR, Elk-Skegemog Sheriff's Office, and our correctional division. And our command post is down there with our central dispatchers. And there is so much going on down there. You can just pick and choose who is going to be drunk and disorderly. Because you can tell them, hey, move it along, but the statutes out there now, if you can articulate that they're going to be a danger to society or themselves, you're going.
Nice.
So that is an option. So clarify that. So.
I had friends, maybe 10 years ago, driving from Detroit up to Higgins Lake on July 4th. They got there at 10:30 in the morning, and there was sheriff's barricade. Lake full, no more boats. Wow. Yeah, I mean, we don't live far from the new, all the work that's been done right by the Torch River. And I can only imagine what parking. Is there a plan there? Is there any idea?
That's all the DNR. So, and the thing is, with DNR access sites, they're the only ones who can shut those down. Yeah, that's why we also partner with DNR. They're not law enforcement, but they're a park ranger, and they can actually shut that launch down if there's issues. So, with the parking, trust me, even with the smaller boat launcher we had in the past all these years, it was all up and down Cherry Avenue. Trust me, we wrote parking tickets all day long. If it says no parking, it's signed, that's what's parking. Or if your tires are on the blacktop, you can't do that. It's illegal parking.
Yeah, many
I took a boater safety course, and it was pretty extensive. In fact, my wife was with me. It was downstate. Now, I don't remember who taught it. If it was the sheriff, or whatever, but it was very good. And we learned a lot, the rules of the water, and you need your boat, and CPR, and all kinds of stuff. I don't know whether they do offer something like that up here now. You heard of something like that?
Yeah, I know the Coast Guard and the auxiliary teach multiple courses. Anything from tying knots to, yeah. The one we teach is the Michigan Boater Safety class. You take a 60, multiple choice 60 problem test at the end, and you have to miss less than 15 to pass. You get your boater safety card. Once you have that for the rest of your life. You don't have to take it ever again.
It's 8 hours.
It's 8-hour class.
Yeah, it was, I think it was
Yep. But I know the Coast Guard and auxiliary offer classes for boaters on navigation and knot tying and all kind radio communication. We touch on that in boater safety, but we don't get into that much.
You do have, okay, but of course you have some.
Yes, that's the one you need to be able to drive a boat. Yep.
So we will be in numbers again on it towards Lake this year. I know a lot of my devs have said, can't we just back off a little bit? Absolutely not. Once we back off, it's going to go right back to where we were at the first time, and then all that work we did is helping.
It's gotten much better. I've been doing this for 15 years, and it's not nearly as bad as it used to be.
We had people down there throwing beer bottles at people's heads, I mean, trespassing on people's homes, going inside their homes, using the bathroom. I mean, it was terrible. That's a problem.
Yeah, so we stopped going there.
Any more questions? I know there's probably a lot out there. I think we went over a 15-minute. I apologize.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, guys. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me just follow up with a note of islands as well as the work that's being done at the boat launch up there. We've had a working group between ESLA, TLPA, and the Forest Conservation Center about those particular issues, both those islands and the boat launch. So we've been in discussions with DNR, Eagle, number of people expressing our concerns about dredging, erosion on those islands. And we actually prepared a detailed notebook for the sheriff and the prosecutors about what the riparian rights are, because it wasn't necessarily known that people owned those islands. Now there's evidence that it's in their deed, they own it. So they need to be protected against people trespassing. We're not looking to, throw people in jail, but we want to protect those islands because we think they are environmentally important to that area. So we have that work group going, and we'll be able to share more information about that in the future. Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Jim Adair. He is from the Traverse City Coast Guard Auxiliary. He's going to talk about what they do.
Well, thank you. That's a tough act to follow after the Sheriff's Department. Anyway, yeah, I'm Jim Adair from the Traverse City Coast Guard Auxiliary. I am the Vice Flotilla Commander, a new job I recently started. I've been with them about 3 years, and it's been an interesting experience to me. It's a great organization. It's what we are. We've been around since 1939, and we are the volunteer component of the United States Coast Guard. Heavy on the volunteer. We get paid worse than the sheriff's deputy. Yeah, but we are part of the Homeland Security. We provide a lot of assistance with all aspects, really. The aviation side. There's three helicopters that basically cover all of the northern Great Lakes, and our aviation side relieves them of like routine shoreline patrols and monitoring the navigation. It allows them to do what they're really good at, is training and saving lives. Oh, I'm sorry, a little closer. My wife tells me I don't even need one of these, Yeah, and we have the aviation side, and then we have the surface side too. You might have seen us out on the lakes a lot. We're working a lot with the sheriff's department, the DNR, and the regular guys out there, kind of lifeguarding and keeping people away from the safe areas and the fireworks and the air shows, and kind of assist with crowd control on the water. And also, we have a lot of classes. I think I touched on that a little bit, which we offer for boating safety, which is our main mission, is safety on the water. And Dickette's Jim and Denise do an awful lot of training for that safety. It's great stuff. And we're always looking for help too. You never had to be in the military or anything. We are a uniformed volunteer. And we will have a sheet over here if anybody's interested. And there is a flotilla in Charlevoix too. So if you're not interested in coming down, if you're interested in it, but you like the little smaller town flavor, it's there is one in Charlevoix too. And it's a great organization, and we assist the law enforcement an awful lot. On that note, I'll hand this off to Mr. Jeffrey, who will do a fine job of elaborating.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. Okay, now for our main event here, Charlie Jeffrey. I've known Charlie for 42 years now. He's a neighbor of mine over here on Elk Lake, and he has a lifelong experience in boating. He ran a fishing charter out of Isle Morada for a number of years. He's had boats up here forever, and he's got a new boat. He's gonna be in Wayne Thunder this year. So he's been in the Coast Guard Auxiliary for 8 years in Georgia, and last year he was vice commander of that district. So please welcome Charlie Jeffrey.
All right, let's talk a little bit about boating safety. How many of you all have taken a boating safety course? Raise your hand. Nice. Very good. And despite what the sheriff said, even though it's legal, don't drink and drive. That is one of the top 3 things that causes accidents. So, thank you to ESLA for having us come out. As was mentioned, recreational boating safety is one of our key missions. So let me run. This is just an overview of some specific things for boating safety. It is not a certificate course. So as we talked about, is if you were born after 1978, you have to have a boating safety course to drive a PWC or a jet ski, depending on how old you are and what you call them. And if you're born after 1998, you have to have a safe boating card to drive a regular boat. We're just taking through some things. So, what do we want to learn? We want to learn how not to kill each other. Actually, out on the lake is a wild, wild west. I was just updated on an accident that happened down in Alabama. They had a professional fishing tournament, and one of the contestants comes out of a side creek, wide open throttle, hits a center console, knocks 3 people out of the boat, and they drowned. So I don't have the details, but it's a pretty good bet that they weren't wearing life jackets. So if you don't get anything else out of this seminar, always wear your life jacket. I don't care if you swim and you're a great swimmer. If you're knocked out of your boat and you're unconscious, you have a broken arm, broken leg, you cannot swim. It is an easy thing to wear. They have inflatable life jackets, less than $100, very unencumbered, easy to wear, save your life. If you're driving a jet ski, I'm also a jet ski operator for the Coast Guard. Wear a rated, this is a 100-mile-an-hour rated life jacket. You see it's got a big collar. Jet skis will do up to 70 miles an hour. You fall out of your jet ski, you'll break your neck. So, cheap things that'll save your life.
You're way too tall.
Elk Lake, Elk-Skegemog. I'll touch on this later. I found an interesting thing as I was researching, this talk. Elk Lake, Elk River, Torch Lake, and I assume the rest of the chain of lakes are considered navigable waters, designated by the Commandant of the Coast Guard in 1975. That means that federal regulations also apply. So who am I? As I said, I'm Charles Jeffrey. I'm a coxswain, which means I'm a small boat commander. I'm a PWC operator. I'm an instructor. I'm a telecommunications operator. I'm an operational specialist. I'm a branch chief for Coast Guard recruiting support. for Region 2, which is South Carolina to Puerto Rico. So we're looking for people too. So anybody under 42 that wants to enlist in the Coast Guard, see me after the meeting. And if you're a cook, we really want to talk to you. I got a $65,000 bonus for anybody who's a cook, because we can't send out a cutter unless I have a cook. The crew gets a little upset if they don't get to eat. And I'm also the past division vice commander, and I've been a flotilla commander. So this is what we're trying to prevent. And it's amazing how many accidents they have. I got a map that shows you later. Michigan is better than most, but we're in the top 15 states for boating accidents. So just get a flavor for it. How many people have a boat that's under 26 feet? Okay. How about under 30 feet? How about under 45 feet? Let me get back to this. Can I go back? Is everybody on inland lakes? Anybody offshore in Lake Michigan? Okay, inland lakes. So if you look at Michigan right here, we're kind of a darker pink. We're not the darkest pink, but we're also not the lightest pink. So we have 3.7% deaths to accidents, which is more than we need. He touched a little bit about the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We were chartered by Congress in 1939, originally as a Coast Guard Reserve. As World War II broke out, they decided to need an active duty reserve. So they formed the active duty reserve and we became the auxiliary. We were trained and qualified to the same standards as the regular Coast Guard active duty, and we augment every mission. There are 11 key missions, with the exception of law enforcement and combat, despite the fact that he wanted to go into combat again. Membership is open to all U.S. citizens over the age of 17. So if you'd like to join the Coast Guard Auxiliary, we do indeed need members. It's a very rewarding profession. The training is phenomenal, and the rewards are great. So, 10 steps to recreational boating safety. Always wear your life jacket. 2, no alcohol or drugs while operating a boat. Understand and maintain safe speed, and I'll tell you what safe speed is later on. Maintain situational awareness. Keep your head on a swivel. 60 miles an hour is 88 feet per second. Even though the speed limit is 55 miles an hour, I bet you there's boats doing more than 55 miles an hour out there. That means that a boat will close on you so fast you almost cannot react if you don't see it coming. Understand and know the rules of the road. Rules of the road to specify which vessel has basically the right of way over you, and we'll touch on that. Know your environment. Before you go out, check the wind, the weather, where you're going. I remember coming out of underneath the bridge over here, and I got too far on the right side of the channel and I ran aground. I've been boating in this area for more than a few years. So how many people have run aground? And don't lie to me. Know how to safely fuel your vessel. That is not an insignificant thing. Gas fumes are very volatile. And a simple spark can set them off. I got a nice picture. I'll show you what happened down on the lake that I patrol in Georgia. Suddenly in command. This is one thing we teach a course on suddenly in command. Train somebody else to operate your boat. If the skipper becomes incapacitated, has a heart attack, falls out of the boat, if nobody else knows how to run the boat, you're kind of up the creek. At least you would like to have somebody be able to turn it off or come back and pick you up. Keep your engines and hulls maintained. There's nothing more embarrassing than having a boat that sinks. Does towboat or sea tow operate on any of these lakes? I've never seen them.
What is that?
What is towboat? Yeah. They're a commercial towing service. So if you run out of fuel or anything, you can call them and they'll come tow you in.
They come here. There is one out over at the Sun Life Marina. I've seen it.
Okay. Have a means of communication. Cell phone, VHF radio, a PLB is a personal locator beacon. This is a personal locator beacon. I'll talk more about that later. And our EPIRB. So if you have a 45-foot boat, have an EPIRB. If your boat goes down, this floats off automatically and sends a signal. I'll talk about that more too. And here's your bonus 11th thing. Take a CPR or first aid course. You're out in the middle of the water and somebody has some sort of event, heart attack, know how to do CPR. Right. So, 2 years ago, on the 4th of July, I took a CBS cameraman out on my boat. Had him with me for 3 hours. I had one rescue, and I only got 5 seconds of airtime. The DNR got it all, but it's a pretty good video, which I will try to play. If I can get back to it earlier. Need more volume.
It's
That's through your laptop, so it won't get any louder, unfortunately.
Oh.
Hey, microphone by the laptop.
Good morning to you. You know, there's an odd cultural disconnect going on here between DUI, driving under the influence, and DUI, boating under the influence. Now, drunk driving, of course, has an unmistakable stigma, and as you're about to see, drunk boating happens all the time. Off Tampa Bay's coast, deputies chased down this fishing boat, barreling towards swimmers. Its driver, later arrested for DUI, appeared passed out behind the wheel. I'm looking at an empty beer can. Drunk boating, the leading cause of fatal boating accidents. Roughly 1 in 6 deaths on the water blamed on boozing. There's a more issue. David 165 gang political. Ryan Locke is a Georgia state game warden.
He got all the PR. Oh, we got
for others. Locke hears the same lie over and over. I only had a couple. Well, something like that 2 to 3 times about the legal limit. How many drunk boats a day do you typically catch? Have more officers usually arrest 5 to 6, maybe even 7 a day. Nationwide, several thousand boaters every year are arrested for DUI. Roughly 1 in 5 of them in Florida. On water anywhere, consequences can be catastrophic. Alex Ali was 13, idling on a jet ski in Kentucky when a 17-foot bass boat blown her down.
He hit me from the side, going over 60 miles an hour. I flew off the jet ski and landed face down in the water, but the boat landed directly on top of my body when I went over the jet ski.
A collision struck her head, shattered her face and both legs, and lacerated her liver. She lost her right leg from the mid-calf down.
The man who ran the Amber was 33 times legal limit.
The Amber Project.
He said on the stand that it's not my fault. She shouldn't have been sitting on the water and I didn't do anything wrong.
He's put no trainees involved. This is not good. The post-boating accidents, injuries, and deaths are preventable. And now a social media stunt. Challenging those on the water to jump off moving boats. Officials warn trying it could hurt or kill you. Other factors, excessive speed, inexperience, inattention. So many people.
That was my 5 seconds.
To respond to a dream of reality. Women, the subject, was wearing a life jacket. Not wearing a life jacket, like not wearing a seatbelt. There are both guilty to makers who takes their survival.
You don't have to be reminded of something that you can never and will never forget.
Alex Locke went on to become the national president of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. She still jet skis, and Sammy Hackler, the drunk boater for his body, was fined $250 in 2010 for the collision. No jail time. On the water, there needs to be a cultural shift.
You would never watch someone get in a car impaired with a beer in their hand and drive away. People watch people do the same thing all the time in a boat.
Something else to consider on the water, which is the pounding of the sun, the vibration of the boat. A couple of beers can feel like the end of a long pump. Mark, you're right about that. Be careful one morning, that's for sure. All right, up next.
So you had them out all day and that's, you could see your face, like you're just like holding the sign?
And that was actually one of my crew members. He didn't get off. I'm out for 3.5 hours. That's all I got. So here's a stat here that's got very sobering. So 80% of the people that have accidents that die are not wearing a life jacket. That's not guaranteeing that if you're wearing a life jacket, you're going to survive, but your chances are a heck of a lot better. So wear your life jacket. As I said, if the only thing you take away from this is wearing a life jacket, wear your life jacket. Another thing, as the boating operator, you're responsible for your passengers. So if something happens to them, or if they get drunk and do something, you're responsible. The big one here is a life jacket not worn is like having a seatbelt you don't wear. The laws are slowly catching up. We see this on the fact that now the age limit for having to take a safe motor course is starting to get higher and higher, which is good. I'd actually like to see it like a driver's license. You got to renew that probably every 5 years. They've made it easy now. All you do is take an eye test. But if you took your safe boating course 40 years ago, which I think one of you said they did, I would urge you to take another one. So Michigan law requires any child under the age of 6 to wear a life jacket. Federal law requires anybody under the age of 13 to wear a life jacket. Is the sheriff still here? Okay. I tried to look it up to see, I mean, these are navigable waters, which supposed to be under federal jurisdiction, so the 13 age limit should apply. So if you take a look at it, the number one cause of death in boating accidents is drowning. There was 377 deaths. This is the data from 1923. And 319 of those people were not wearing a life jacket. 10 are unknown. I'm going to guess the 10 are unknown probably weren't wearing a life jacket either. The other top 5 cases are trauma, cardiac arrest, hypothermia, etc. Life jackets. Type 1 is an offshore jacket. Typically, if you're taking a cruise somewhere, a Type 1 is what you wear. They're set up to turn you over in the water, as if you fall in, they'll turn your head over so you can actually breathe. You have a Type 2, which is near shore vest. These will not turn you over. So if you end up face down in the water, they will keep you face down in the water. Type 3 is inflatable. So if you're just out boating on the lake, please buy an inflatable and wear it. I don't know how many times I've talked to people and they go, well, I can swim. As I told you, if you get injured, you can't swim. Everybody in their boat has to have a Type 4, which is a cushion to throw. And then the Type 5 is special use. That's typically what you'll see in construction. If you watch them, I think if they're building that new ramp down there by Torch River Bridge, then that's they're wearing probably Type 5s. So check the weather. Check the app on your phone. See what's coming in. As you know, weather comes across Lake Michigan into us in the blink of an eye. So look and see what's happening in Wisconsin, because then you know weather comes in. I've been out here in Elk Lake when there's been 4-foot waves, and it gets a little challenging. File a float plan. A float plan can be something as sophisticated as filling out a whole sheet that says what your vessel type is, how many crew you have on board, who they are, so on and so forth, to something as simple as just letting somebody know where you're going and when you expect to be back. Because then if you don't come back at that time, somebody can go look for you. I didn't know that you could drink and drive boats. You can't do that in Georgia. You'll get a visit from the guy in the boat with a blue light on it. So if you're 0.08, that seems to be pretty standard. If your alcohol level, blood alcohol level is 0.08, then you're driving under the influence. In Michigan, if you got doing that for the 3rd time, that's a felony, and you can get to 10 years in jail. So it's basically a 3 strikes and you're out rule. And it's funny, from when I first started coming up here till now, you guys got marijuana distributors all over the place. So don't smoke and drive your boat either. Another one is operator attention. If you're the operator of the boat, be sober, know where you're going, maintain your speed, maintain the control of your boat, and look around. Assume that everybody else in the lake doesn't know what they're doing, because that's probably a pretty good assumption. The second one I talked about is having a backup skipper. If something happens to you, have somebody else who knows how to run the boat. especially if it's a critical case, like a cardiac case where they can get you to shore, or they can get you help. If you're out in the middle of the lake, if you're 20 miles up Torch Lake, you want somebody to be able to get you to a place where you can get help. This guy did not have situational awareness. He was looking around, or he was drinking his beer or something, and neglected to see that, that day marker right there in front of him. So I said, keep your head on the swivel, look for other vessels, look for hazards to navigation. So the comment about people actually tying up in Torch River, that could be construed as a hazard to navigation or blocking navigation. So I think the sheriff probably could have the ability to move people along for blocking navigation. Don't assume that the other boater sees you. Don't assume the other captain knows what he's doing. And don't assume that the captain knows the nav rules. So there's ATONs, which are aids to navigation, which tells you, you'll see more, you won't see these on the inland lake so much, but you'll see them certainly in Lake Michigan. I'm sure everybody's heard of red right returning. That means as you're coming in from offshore or you're going upstream, red buoys will always be on your right, green will be on your left. So a red buoy, a red ATON is called a nun. The best memory aid for that is REN. Stands for red, even, and a nun. So they're all even numbers. Green, a memory aid for that is COG. They're green, they're odd numbers, and they're can. So red is a nun, green is a can. The other ones you'll see is regulatory aids. So you'll have informational aids, you'll have exclusion aids, you'll have awake aids, etc. So the square ones are information, circles are controlled, such as an awake. Exclusion is a diamond with a cross in it. It means you cannot come in there with a boat. Typically you'll find those at swimming areas. And then just a diamond will be a danger. The ones to be particularly looking for is the red and black stripe buoys. Red means you're in safe water. Black means that between that buoy and the shoreline, don't take a boat through there because you'll have shallow water and you'll run aground. They could certainly use one out here. It would save me. Where's my nav rules? So if you want to know all the federal navigation rules, you can get this book that is an electronic version of it. If your boat is 45 feet or over, you have to have a copy of that on your boat. You can have an electronic copy, but you have to be able to access it within 2 minutes. You have to keep a proper lookout, maintain safe speed. Everybody is responsible for avoiding a collision. So even if you're 100% in the right and you see a collision happening, you have a responsibility to try to avoid that collision. I said if your boat is 39.4 feet is 12 meters. The metric system gets us again. I said all boaters are responsible for preventing collisions. You can break the navigation rules in order to avoid a collision. So in the nav rules, there's two terms. There's a stand-on vessel, which means that you're required to maintain your course and speed. And then there's a give-way vessel, which means you have to give way to the vessel that stand on. And your lights on the boat tells you whether you're stand-on or you're give-way. So the nav lights in the front of your boat is on the starboard side, you'll see green. On the port side, you'll see red. The good way to remember that is that port wine is always red. And green is a longer word than red, and starboard is longer than port. So here's your first quiz question. Why is it called starboard? Okay, that's from old Scandinavian, because they always had the rudder on the right side of the boat, and that was starboard. So that got to be known over time. It's been diluted to starboard. So the second question is, why is the left side called port? Any guesses? Because as you came into dock, you didn't want to put your starboard side to the dock because you would crush your rudder. So as you came into port, you always came in on the left side, and they got to be known as port. So So there's your trivia question. All right, one more, just for information. Why do they call the bathroom the head? On the old sailing ships, the bathroom was always put up the front of the ship or the head of the ship, so the odor would get blown away. So that became known as the head. All right, so in a crossing situation, so this boat coming across, you would see, so the boat coming up this way would see the red light on this boat, which tells him that he has to be the giveaway vessel. This vessel stays on course and speed. This guy slows down and passes behind him. He does not, it's not like a yellow light at the traffic light. You don't speed up to beat the yellow. You actually slow down and pass behind him. If you're going to pass somebody from behind, the vessel in front is always the stand-on vessel. Now, there is a whole series, if you read through your nav rules, there's a whole series of horn signs that you're supposed to display to let the boat in front of you know what you intend to do. And then on the inland rules, he's got to respond to let him know that he understands what you're saying. So if I was going to pass this guy on his right, I would do one short blast on my horn. If I'm going to pass him on my left, I would do 2 short blasts. And he would respond with 1 short blast or 2 short blasts to acknowledge that he understood, and he's going to stay on course and on speed. Now, of course, what I found on most of the lakes we patrol on, if I blast my horn, somebody flips me off. So probably same here. Typical in a head-to-head thing is both boats will move to starboard and pass port to port. So there is a hierarchy of maneuverability. So any vessel that is above you is you would give way to them in every situation. It's interesting that the seaplane has the lowest priority, so he gives way to everybody. So like everything else, we have a mnemonic to help you remember this. It is new reels, catch fish, so purchase some. So not under command, which basically means that the vessel is, it's lost its power, it's lost its steering, whatever, it's just kind of floating out there. That's not under command. It has the highest priority, everybody stays out of the way of it. Reels is restricted ability to maneuver. So if you're out there dredging or something like that, or you have a very large vessel in a small channel, it would have priority over smaller vessels. And on down the line. Fishing is commercial fishing. It is not just the guy out here in his John boat drowning in a worm. He is just a power boat. Night navigation. So between sunset and sunrise, or when visibility is limited, as in fog, heavy rain, etc., you have to have your navigation lights on. And we'll touch on what navigation lights are. The nav lights do tell us at night what type of vessel it is, where it's going, etc. So it's very important to use your nav lights. PWCs cannot be out at night, which is why they have no lights on them. You follow the same navigational rules that you do during the daytime. A big one, which we see on my lake down south, is docking lights are not headlights. Do not turn them on and drive down the middle of the lake. Only use them when you're coming into physically to dock. When you're at anchor, you turn off your 2 front side lights, the red and the green ones, and all you display is your anchor light. That lets people know you're at anchor. If you have additional boating lighting, which a lot of people have, that lighting cannot interfere or be confused with navigation lights for red and green, and law enforcement doesn't like you to use blue either. They get upset about that. So powerboat lights. If your boat is under 26 feet, you're going to have a red and green on the front, you're going to have a masthead light, and you're going to have a stern light. If you're under 26 feet, your masthead light can be combined into one. You don't have to have both a mast and a stern. And your red and green can be a composite on the front of the boat as well. If you have an unpowered vessel under 26 feet, greater than 26 feet, you are still required to have lights. So if you have a kayak out there that's 26 feet long, you got to have lights on. If you have small vessels under 26 feet, you can use a flashlight. If it's a sailboat, you shine it on your sail so people know what you're doing. If you're in a rowboat, keep it up. If you got somebody coming along on this lake only 55 miles an hour, you can get hit. Fueling safety. So if you're going to fuel your boat, if you have an outboard with a portable fuel tank, obviously turn off the engine. You take your fuel tank out of the boat and put it on the dock and fuel it there. You do not fuel it inside the boat. If you have, an internal fuel tank, there is a metal rim on that gas thing where you put the gas in. Make sure that the metal point of the fueling nozzle is in contact with that to prevent static electricity. A little static a static spark could ignite that fuel. So when fueling is complete, when you start fuel, take the fuel tank out, close all your hatches and doors if you have an indoor fuel tank. Gas fumes are heavier than air, so they will sink to the bottom. So when you finish, open all your doors and hatches, ventilate, turn on your blower for 4 minutes to suck all the fuel fumes out of your bilge. So if you have an inboard or an inboard outboard, fumes will sink to the bottom of that. You want to suck those out before you try to start your engine. This was an actual case of a boat at a marina on the lake I'm on. The guy fueled, didn't follow all the instructions. It exploded. They had to life flight his wife and 2 kids to the hospital. All right, a couple key things on boat handling. Does everybody feel like they know how to handle their boat? You know how to dock? First thing is safe speed. Safe speed is defined, and this comes out of the NAV rules. Every vessel should proceed at safe speed so it can make proper and effective action to avoid a collision and be stopped within a distance appropriate prevailing circumstances and conditions. These are the conditions: the state of visibility, the traffic density, the maneuverability of your vessel, the wind state, the sea state, and the current and the draft. So if you got a very deep draft vessel, you're gonna be like me and you're gonna run aground out there. Okay, if you're casting off from the dock, keep your boat tied up and start the engine. There's nothing worse than casting off, floating out in the middle, and your engine won't start. Has that ever happened to anybody? Oh yeah. Who's launched their boat without putting the plug in? Again, and we'll keep hitting this thing. Make sure everybody's wearing a personal flotation device. The actual law says it has to be readily accessible, but you will find that people have it stashed under the seat or stowed somewhere. That is not really accessible. Readily accessible to me is actually have it on your body. Once your engine's running properly, make sure everything's clear, then you can go ahead and pull out. So a few pictures here. If you have wind or current, very easy. Just cast off your bow and stern and just slowly put it up. The wind or the current will push you right off the dock. It's as easy as can be. If the wind or the current is on the dock, pushing you back in the dock, you just cast off your stern line. Turn your helm to starboard, put it forward, and actually the movement forward will cast your stern right off the thing. Then you release your bow line and just take her off. Approaching the dock. The thing we always remind you is don't come any faster into the dock than you're willing to hit it. So come in slowly. Another thing is don't fend off with your hand or feet. Use a fender or use a boat hook. A boat will crush your hand, your foot in the blink of an eye. Get your lines ready. Get your fenders in place. Everybody know what a fender is? Sometimes called a bumper. All right. You head into the wind or the current, whichever is stronger. So if you're coming in with no wind or current, you just kind of come in at 45 degrees, kick your helm over, and you just slide right in easily. If you're docking with wind or current, you still can come in. You tie off your bow, and then reverse your engine, and just back right into the dock and tie off. Very easy to do. Anchoring. Anybody know how to anchor? I don't see any heads moving at all. What you don't do is you just don't throw your anchor over. No, you don't. No, you don't. That doesn't work. The other thing is your anchor rope. you want to have a scope anywhere from 5 to 10 times the vertical distance of your boat above the water. So if I am sitting in 10 feet of water, I'm going to put out 70 feet of line. So the way you anchor is you come into the wind or current, let your anchor down off the bow of your boat, have somebody on your bow, then you have somebody at the helm. And then you back off slowly as the guy feeds out line. So if I'm again in 10 feet of water and I'm feeding out 70 feet of line, he's telling me how much line he's feeding out. And then when he gets to 70 feet, he ties it off and makes it fast. And that will actually drag the flutes into the ground and you're securely anchored. When you retrieve it, you kind of reverse the process. You have somebody on the bow, he drives forward slowly, directing you along the anchor line. When you get to where the anchor is, he pulls it up. If it's a muddy bottom, that anchor will be completely coated with mud. If you're on my boat, you're going to clean that off before you pull it on board. Or you're going overboard with the anchor. All right, who knows their knots? And the granny knot is not one of them. Okay, we call it a reef knot, everybody else calls it a square knot. Very useful knot to know. The king of knots for mariners is called the bowline. If you have a line that doesn't have a loop in it, the bowline will allow you to tie a loop. Which is very useful coming in to throw your bow line over a post. 2 half hitches. Nice way to tie off onto a rail. Very secure knot. Again, the clove hitch, another good way to tie off onto a rail. So yeah, we actually, for boat crew, we get tested on these knots. If you can't do these knots in front of your instructor in a specified period of time, you get to go try again. And the sheep spin or the beck. This allows you to tie 2 lines together that are different diameters. So if you have one line that's not long enough, you want to bring another one in, but one's a 1/2 inch and the other is 3/8. This will let you put those 2 lines together and extend it. So just as the thing is, if instead you drop this line down here, if you brought it over this way, it would be a square knot. So the easy way to do it is, you can't remember how to do a sheep bend, start with a square knot. And instead of coming down this way, you drop it underneath that way and you have a sheep bend. We do have a whole graph, and I'll actually leave this presentation with John so we can share this graph with anybody who wants it. It specifies the type of boat, what your line should be like, the lengths, the diameters, etc. Personally, what I like is double braided nylon. I recommend you carry 10-foot, 20-foot dock lines, spring lines. Everybody know what a spring line is? So you have a bow line, you have a stern line. Spring lines go to the mid to keep your boat from moving back and forth. Anchor lines up to 200 feet. And I always carry 100 feet of tow line. Guess I have to tow somebody. So April 1st of 2021, the federal government passed the engine cutoff switch law. So if your boat is under 26 feet, you have to have an engine cutoff switch, and it has to be connected to you, either your body or your personal flotation device, which all of you now are sure are going to be wearing from now on out. That covers all recreational vessels, and since this is navigable water, this would apply to us. So does everybody have an engine cutoff switch if your boat's under 26? You always use it? You will now, right? Fire extinguishers. New law there. If your fire extinguisher is over 12 years old, it is no longer serviceable and you have to get rid of it. So get yourself a new fire extinguisher. This applies to boat. If your boat's less than 26 feet in length and it's an outboard engine and the fuel is in a portable fuel tank, it doesn't apply to you. For most boats, 26 boats, Most boats that are 26 feet now or under probably have an onboard fuel tank and not a portable one. The other one there just talks about the B5 and the 20B are the size of the fire extinguishers. If you don't have yourself a Michigan boating regs handbook, fire extinguishers come in 3 different types: type A, type B, type C. Easy way to remember this is type A is for combustible solids, so think of ash, like burning wood is ash. Type B is liquids, think of oil. Type C is electrical fires, think of current. So you want to get a fire extinguisher that's rated at least A and B, but ideally A, B, and C. Sometimes you just have to get off your boat. If it catches fire, get off. Jump in the water, get away. Don't go down with the ship. If you're on a PWC and it catches fire, since the engine is sitting right underneath you, I always recommend you get off the boat. PWCs have to carry a fire extinguisher. You'll never have a chance to use it. If you need rescue, first locator beacon. Get into trouble, you hit this button, it sends up a satellite signal, goes to the Coast Guard. Coast Guard will either call them, or call the Coast Guard, or will call the Sheriff's Office to come help you out. I was actually on patrol in my lake in Georgia, and I got a call from Coast Guard Sector Miami. They had gotten a call down there off of POB. Somebody was a problem on our lake, so we helped them. EPIRB, if you have a larger boat, EPIRB is an automatically deployed emergency rescue thing. Again, it sends up a satellite signal. Your cell phone. The problem with the cell phone is if it falls to the bottom of the lake, it's kind of no good. A VHF radio, this is a portable one that floats. And I did verify with the sheriff that they monitor channel 16. If you have a VHF radio on your boat and it's turned on, you're required by law to monitor channel 16. The good thing about a radio is if you call out a mayday, anybody else has a radio and someone near you will hear that. With a cell phone, you're only calling one person. So this is what we call our Rescue 21 system. You activate your EPIRB or your PLB, goes up the satellite, comes down to the local Coast Guard station, and they're alerted to the fact that somebody needs help. Education is key. So even if you took your course 40 years ago, I advise you to take another one. So if you look at most of the boating accidents, 80.6% of the deaths were people who had no education. So you guys are well ahead of the curve right now. But take it again. A lot of things have changed. And if you took it 40 years ago, you've probably forgotten half of what you learned anyways. As I talked about, I looked this up out of the District 9. We are in District 9 for the Coast Guard. Both Elk Lake, Elk River, Lake-Skegemog, I call it Round Lake because that's what it was when I came here first, are navigable waters as defined by the Coast Guard in 1975. If you have an accident, you're required to report it to the local authorities. Again, this is all in that Michigan Regs Handbook, so I would advise everyone to have a copy of that if they don't. If a person dies or is injured and requires medical treatment beyond first aid, you have 24 hours to contact local authorities. If the damage is over $2,000 again, or the boat is destroyed. And there's the handbook. It is online. I would have a copy on my boat. Especially up here, other issues to consider are cold water drowning. Does anybody know what cold water drowning is? If you jump in very cold water, the first thing you're going to do when you go down is go, damn, this water's cold. And you're going to suck in a bunch of water, you're going to go down, and you're going to drown. We actually have those down south on Lake Lanier. So be careful when you're jumping in very cold water. I'm just checking the water temp, it's 42 degrees out here. That would cause you to gasp. The other thing is electric shock drowning. You probably know what electric shock drowning is. I'm putting you on the spot. So a very small amount of current, only 100 milliamps, can cause you to be paralyzed if you're in the water. So if you're on a dock that has poor grounding, or you have a boat that has poor grounding that's leaking current into the water, and if you're swimming around it, you can suffer electric shock drowning, which will paralyze you and you'll go down. Yes.
Which has a lot to do with the shore stations and the stuff that is like the electric stuff in shore stations. So you can like buy thingies that you put in the water. I have a friend that it was a dog. It's all fine, no problem. But the dog jumped in the water and got electrocuted. But there's like stuff that you can put in there that will tell you if it's not okay.
I would assume the law is the same up here as it is down where we are.
Well, not a law. It's a thing.
What I'm saying is you gotta have a ground fault interrupter on that circuit that's going out to the boat.
Well, sure.
Yeah, but that shuts off the electricity.
Yeah, a lot, like, even that being said though, there is something that you can get that will tell you if your shore station, the power stuff is not right. It's like a beacon. Does anyone know what I'm talking about here?
I wouldn't be surprised, you're just looking for current in the water. Hey, I haven't seen that particular, but it makes sense.
There's a beacon that was put in, and again, it's, the dog jumped in the water, it was electrocuted because the shore station wasn't grounded, no one got hurt, it was all fine. But I know that there is something that you can get to like make sure that doesn't
Makes good sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Look on Amazon, I bet they got it.
I don't know what it's called, but yeah, there is something.
All right, takeaway messages. As I told you, and I'll repeat it again, wear your life jacket all the time. Know before you go. Know where you're going. Let somebody else know where you're going. Maintain situational awareness. Don't be that guy driving his boat into the middle of the day marker. Don't operate a boat under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Let someone know where you're going and when you'll return. Simple as a neighbor or a phone call or something. Sign up for additional training. Talk to these people. As you talked about, we have basic certificate courses, we have advanced courses, we can teach you navigation, and a few other things. Get a free safety check. They'll look at all the required items you need to have on your vessel to make sure you're in compliance with the law. And they'll also refer additional items that you should have just for your own personal safety. You have to remember is you are responsible for your wake. So if your wake capsizes somebody's boat, you're responsible for that. Questions? Thank you. Thank you for your attendance. Safe birding.
Hang on a second. I'll get to the. All of our speakers get this little plaque from Ezra. I want to thank you for putting that together. Obviously, he could teach the 8-hour class if we could get people to commit to 8 hours up here. Maybe we'll do that, or the sheriffs can do that as well. So would be very valuable. I want to also point out on the ESLA website, we put a ton of this information. All of those boating safety rules, all that stuff is out there on the ESLA website. So go and look at the website.
So not to downgrade the sheriff's course, which I'm sure is great, but our certificate's good in all 50 states.
Okay. These are our local Coast Guard folks here are going to talk about vessel inspection.
I only need about 4 minutes. So I'm with, my husband and I are with the Traverse City Flotilla. We're at an air station, Charlevoix up the road. They have the cutters. We have some classes that we offer in Traverse City. There's some literature over there on the table. We have navigation, the knots, the Oxpad is with the kayaks. We have some kayaking safety classes. I'm going to pass this around. There's literature over there if you want to just have the top. So then the second thing I want to talk about is the vessel checks. Has anyone had their vessel? Let me just show one picture of that. Has anyone had their vessel examined? Is the vessel examined? Get this cute little sticker on it if you pass. So these are some examples that if you want to have your vessel safety check, this part right here that's got the little circle on, this is the requirements. So if you're interested in having your vessel examined, if you look over these, just pass these around, give you an idea of what's required.
And why would we want to do that?
Oh, because then you would have the safety equipment that you need on the vehicle, on the vessel. I'm not saying that law enforcement is not going to wave at you and keep going, but if you do have the sticker, the Marine Patrol knows that you're looking out for your safety and other safeties by having that vessel decal on your boat. So it's a way to just make sure you have your safety equipment. There's a list of the requirements, and then there's some recommendations. And I have a list here. If anyone's interested in having their vessel examined, my buddy Riley over here and the Coast Guard, we're gonna get together. We have what they call a blitz, where 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, we're gonna get together. We'll have many auxiliary members present. Bring your boats over. We'll go through those lists. You have everything that's required. We can talk about what's recommended. You get the cute little decal. You get a copy of that. Put it on your boat. So if you're interested in having your vessel examined, feel free to sign up. I have ink pens all over the place. If you want to sign up for that, and we'll contact you when that blitz is. And if anyone has any questions, I do have some cards here about the auxiliary. If you wanted to contact me, I will put you in touch with whoever you need to talk to answer your question. Any quick questions right now? Okay, thank you.
Let me add to that, Denise. Is one thing that the vessel inspection will do is they'll check to make sure everything is required that you have and it's up to date. So when the sheriff's deputies stop you and say, let me see all your safety equipment, you know at one point in time you had all your safety equipment. If you pull out your fire extinguisher that's 14 years old, you go, oh, I'm sorry. Remember the old thing, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So at least these people will tell you, this is good, this is not good, you need this.
There's no charge for a safety check either. If we're here, if you're here, and we're here doing the checks, our friend Riley will make sure that the items are discounted to replace what needs to be replaced.
Yeah, that's our plan. We're going to bring all items on the check into the dam shop and basically sell them at wholesale cost to you guys. Our goal is to get everybody safe out on the water, and there's no need to make a profit on safety and all and health and keep our community members beyond it.
Have you picked a date yet, or any dates when you're going to do that?
Yeah, let me address that. We're actually working with the marina right now to set up some specific dates throughout the summer, and we'll send out one of our email blasts and also post it on the ESLA website. So you'll be able to schedule a session here to get your vessel checked.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much for that.